Hi folks, today is August 7th, 2024, and I'm standing in our 2022 Flagstaff Classic 832 BWS. We have had some struggles with this refrigerator, and so the purpose of this video is to tell you a little bit about what we've gone through. This is not a technical video. I'm not going to necessarily tell you how to fix anything. I'm just going to alert you to some of the issues we've gone through with our refrigerator, and perhaps the knowledge that I've gained this summer and last summer might help you. I will make a shout out to Chadwick RV Doctor, specifically Sean at Chadwick RV Doctor. Sean has been very helpful in the past when we've needed repairs on our RVs. And Sean at Chadwick RV Doctor has been very helpful in this case. He has talked to me on the phone a lot about this refrigerator. He has not come out to look at it because he was busy with other jobs, but he's been really helpful and I've learned a lot. And so if you're ever in Orange County and you need help, I strongly recommend Chadwick RV Doctor. Okay, so back to our story. A year ago, 2023, we were in Oklahoma and it was very hot. It was like 100 degrees or more and 80% or more humidity, and we could not keep this refrigerator cold. And so what we ended up doing was shutting it off for a couple of days before we came home, because we thought, oh boy, when we come home, we'll have to get it fixed. And surprisingly, after a couple of days off, it came back to life. And we had a similar situation this time. With a trip. And that's what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to go around on the other side of the refrigerator and show you some things and talk about that. But first, let me say before I go on any further, this refrigerator, as you can see, is located on a slide out. It's on a kitchen slide out. That, in our opinion, is not a good idea, because this refrigerator has very little insulation around it because it's sticking out from the side of the trailer. If I could communicate anything to trailer manufacturers, I would say, don't do that. Don't put a refrigerator on a slide out like this, because there's just not enough insulation to keep it cold in the summer. And if you were in a very cold climate, and you were trying to use it in the winter, you might have a problem with that too. So not a good idea to put a fridge on a slide out, but that's another story for another day. Okay, so I told you about last summer, and we could not keep this thing cool, and we thought it was broken, and we shut it down for a couple days, and then it came back to life. All right, similar thing this summer, 2024. We were in Phoenix. It was hot. It was 118 degrees. The fridge managed to work okay. No problem there. We went to Flagstaff, up in the mountains. It was okay. It was working all right. Flagstaff, of course, was much cooler. We went on to Laughlin, where it was like 118 degrees and 35% humidity. And the fridge started going, and the freezer itself was on and off. So the ice cream melted, then it froze back up. So that was not a happy experience. The fridge itself was only about 45 to 50 degrees. It was just barely struggling. We went to the central coast of California where it was cooler. The fridge was working a little better. And then we got home, and man, the fridge just gave up the ghost. Because here in Orange County, when we got home, it was 100 degrees or more. The fridge was about 50 degrees. The freezer was about 40 on and off. And we thought, nah, we're back to where we were last year. So we turned it off for 3 days and let it sit. And that's when I called Sean at Chadwick RV Doctor saying, I think we're going to need you to come out. And turns out we didn't need him to come out at all, and I'll tell you exactly why that was. But anyway, it was off for 3 days. And then, just a couple of days ago, after talking with Sean, we turned it back on. And it has come back to life. And in fact, it's actually too cold today. I didn't put any food back in there yet, because I want to do this video first. We've been eating food out of ice chests for several days. That's not fun. But the fridge has come back to life. And I'm going to tell you why we think that happened. And again, this is not really a technical video. This is just a video for you to understand, here's some of the things involved with these fridges, and maybe I can learn a little background knowledge from all of this. Okay, so now we move to the inside of the refrigerator. And what's that, you say? That's ice cream. Yes, indeed. It's ice cream because it's cold in the freezer. It's like, what? That's 12 degrees in the freezer. Yeah, nice and cold, exactly the way it's supposed to be, but it hasn't been that way for long, and that's what we're going to talk about. Down here is the main refrigerator compartment, and it's below 40. It was at 34 degrees this morning when I opened it up. So, wow. Okay, that's right where it ought to be. So we'll talk about how it got that way in a little bit, and I'll tell you also why I haven't put any food back in here yet. Now, let me go over here to another one of my complaints. On these gas electric refrigerators, this is how you control the temperature. It's that little cord that you drag up and down for colder or warmer. Oh, that's real specific. This is not a good system. I don't understand why the manufacturers can't come up with a better system. As you can see, ours has a clothespin on it. That's because the original plastic bracket was worthless and kept falling off. So now we've got it close to the top of colder. I actually had to lower it a little bit this morning because it was too cold, and it's still a little bit too cold. But anyway, that's another one of my complaints as we get started. Why can't manufacturers do something better than this? But I guess it's inherent with the design of the refrigerator, the technical specs of the fridge. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move on. Okay, so now we're on the outside of the trailer, and here's a picture of the slide out. It's a Schwintek slide. This is where the fridge is. Comes out 27 inches. Again, there's no insulation to speak of around the outside of the fridge, and I just think this is a really bad idea for RV manufacturers to do that. But you know, we are where we are, and we have what we have. You're probably going, what the heck is that thing hanging down? Okay, when all of this started happening, I went and bought some sunscreen fabric at Lowe's, and there's a board up there. You can probably see it from here. Let me zoom in on that for you. There's a board up there that I've got it stapled to and some clamps, and it's clamped to the edge of the slide out. Because in trailers in the past, I had a problem with fridges being in the sun. You know, most of the day they get really hot on the outside, and so I think this helps a lot. I don't think this is a solution per se, but I think it helps a lot. So I think I will continue to use this after this is over. Of course, when you travel, that thing's got to come off, so that's going to necessitate a trip up to the roof, but you know, whatever. So I think the sunscreen fabric will help. This was like a $20 project from Lowe's. I think it was worthwhile. Okay, so let's look on the inside here. I've got the clips on the bottom to kind of make it stand off from the side of the RV. So let's come around this way after I get my cord untangled and talk about the inside. This is the cover, of course, which has been taken off. You're probably going, why is there duct tape on there like that? Well, there's duct tape on there like that because the little clips that held it to the door to the RV, they broke when I unscrewed them. They broke. So I've ordered replacements from eTrailer. Those little clips are $7 a piece at eTrailer. Camping World has them 2 for $33. Don't even get me started on Camping World and their prices. But anyway, even $7 for a little plastic clip is ridiculous. But anyway, those will be here soon. All right, looking at the back end of the fridge here. This is the absorber vessel here. And then above that, going up there, that's the absorber itself, the column, the tube that goes up there. And then up at the top, I'm not going to show you that because I'm not getting on the ladder again. Up at the top, there's a fan and condenser coils and a vent. And I'm telling you now what Sean at Chadwick RV Doctor, how he explained this thing to me as he walked me through it. It's very important. I'm setting my notes down here again. It's very important that there be air circulation in here. This is the panel. You know, this is the back of the fridge, and so there's airspace in here. And that airspace goes all the way up to the top, and it's really important that there be space up there for the hot air to come out. So that was one of the first things Sean said. He said, go up there and look and see and make sure that there's there's space up there, and I did. I took that off, and there's space for the hot air to come out, because he said a lot of times the manufacturers will pack insulation in there, and that really defeats the purpose. Now there is a fan up there, a very small one, probably 4-inch square, like you'd see in the back of a computer. That's really not enough. There might be room for another fan up there. That's something I would explore another day. I think there should be at least 2 or 3 fans up there, not just one, but at least the air is coming out. Okay, so the air goes in here, and then it rises and goes out up there. That's the absorber vessel right there. Sean said, when I talked to him on the phone, he said, put your hand on it. Is it hot? And I said, well, yeah, it's hot. I could only keep my hand on it for a few seconds. So he said, okay, that's good. It's supposed to be that way because it's doing its job. Over here is the flue that, carries air up. He said, is that hot? So I put my hand on, yow, man, is that hot? Wow. He said, okay, it's doing its job. So then he told me a little bit about the gas temperature exchange and the coolant coils up the top and all that. Bottom line is, on these RV gas electric refrigerators, they work through a solution of hydrogen and ammonia that has to go through that has to be stored in here, and then goes through all these pipes to make the refrigerator cool. And what we think happened was that this is probably what happened last year too, when we were in a climate where it was really hot, the hydrogen and ammonia can crystallize because it's just the unit's just working too hard, and they just crystallize, and then they block the system, and then it gets much less effective. And so that's what we think happened last year when we were in Oklahoma, when it was 100 plus and 80 plus humidity. It just crystallized and just went, I can't do this anymore. And that's what we think happened in Laughlin this summer. It crystallized, and it needed to be shut off for a couple of days so that the system could then restore itself and begin working. So I guess that's my first recommendation. And again, this is not technical, this is just our experience. That if you have a fridge like this, and the stuff back here feels hot like it ought to be, but it's just not cooling, and you've done everything you can to keep it out of the sun, like this, maybe what you need to do is just shut it off for a couple of days and let it rest, and then power it back up and see what you're doing. I thought initially that maybe this was a motherboard issue, because you hear about people having problems with the motherboard, but you can probably hear it, the fan is working and the light inside worked. And so there wasn't that indication to me that there was a motherboard problem, because electrically speaking, and this is again not technical, electrically speaking, it seemed to be working okay. So I think that was our issue. It was with the absorber vessel and the absorber pipes and that gas temperature exchange, that it had just worked itself to a, albeit temporary, death, and we just had to let it rest for a while. And again, I let it rest for about 3 days, and this morning when I got up, the fridge was really, really cold, to the point where that little cord inside, I actually lowered it a little bit this morning, because I want to get the temperature down inside the fridge so we don't freeze our vegetables. I don't care about the freezer, but the fridge, we got to get the temperature down. So we're going to work on that today before we load anything back up. And then of course, I'm going to order, well, I actually have ordered the 2 new $7 plastic clamps. They go right there and they go right there. And so we'll get the door fixed up. I am going to keep the shade up there when we're in place and not traveling. Of course, I obviously can't have that up there when you're traveling, because, well, that would be fun, wouldn't it? No, we wouldn't want to do that. So those are my thoughts on this right now. I will have some final suggestions for you, though. So based on our experience with this fridge last summer and again this summer, Here's my advice to you, like best practices, non-technical advice. The first one is be really attentive to that cord inside the fridge that controls the temperature. Stupid little thing that it is. Make sure it's always in a proper position. You know, that cord can easily drop out of the plastic hanger and then fall down. And then when that happens, the temperature goes down with it. You don't want that to happen, so be attentive to that. You might need to put a clothespin up there like I've done to keep it in place. You're also going to want to adjust that thing as the temperature changes. As fall comes in, if you're in your trailer in the fall or the winter, you're going to want to adjust that thing, because if you leave it up near maximum cold, where I have ours right now, fall's going to come in, you're going to freeze all your stuff in the fridge. So that's something you need to be really attentive of as the weather changes outside. Keep a thermometer inside. Keep one in the freezer compartment and one in the refrigerator, because you want to keep an eye on that. You know, don't just kind of open the door and guess, because that can lead to melted ice cream. That can lead to sour milk. That can lead also to frozen spinach. You know, so you want to be careful of that. So have a thermometer inside. Consider putting up some kind of a sunshade. You know, this one I realize is probably not the greatest in the world, but hey, it works. I've seen other people just use umbrellas. Depends on how windy it is where you are. I had to put the little clips on the outside of ours because I need to keep the sunshade together, and I don't want it to billow all over the place. But think about that, because if you're in a situation where the fridge is in the sun all the time, that's not going to help you at all. Gas electric refrigerators are never ideal. You know, it's an evaporation system that they use to keep stuff cool. That's just not ideal. We have a big, nice trailer, and we live out of this trailer. The only reason that we haven't pulled this fridge out altogether and gone to a residential, 110 refrigerator is that we do dry camping, particularly in the winter at Quartzsite. And we have a solar package, but there's no way I could have enough solar to run a residential refrigerator out of this trailer. We'd have to fill the entire roof with solar panels, and I'd have to lose a lot of storage space for batteries, and I'd have to get a much bigger inverter, and I don't want to do all that. So that's why we haven't gone to a 110. If we were stable, if we were in one place all the time, I'd do that in a heartbeat, because the gas electric fridge is just not where it's at, if you want my actual opinion. We also can't go to a 12-volt electric refrigerator for the same reason. It would just use too much power, and that wouldn't be a problem when we're in one place, but that would be a problem when we are dry camping. So you got to work with the system as it is. So do everything you can to understand within the limits of your technical ability how these refrigerators work. If you're buying a new trailer, I would recommend springing for the extended warranty. We have the extended warranty, but it's not going to kick in because this trailer is new. It's not going to kick in for a while. When it does, it'll be helpful, although it's got a $100 deductible on it. And I would also advise you to have on speed dial, perhaps, an RV mechanic that you know and trust and does good work for you. And Sean at Chadwick RV Doctor has worked on 2 previous trailers of ours. He's a good guy. He's very knowledgeable. When I called him with this problem, he was too busy to come out, but he was willing to talk me through it on the phone. And when we got to the end of our second conversation, he said, well, you've done everything I would do if I were there, so I don't see any reason for me to come out at this point. This was yesterday. And I said, okay, I'll call you back in 24 hours and let you know how things are progressing. So I'm going to call Sean this afternoon and say, we're good. And I'm going to tell Sean he really needs to send me a bill for the telephone consulting, because he probably spent 45 minutes with me, and time is money. But anyway, so have a good RV mechanic. And if you are mobile mechanics are really important too. Sean's first comment was, well, you're still under the factory warranty, so you ought to take it back to the dealer. And I said, yeah, I know how that goes, and you do too, Sean. You take your RV to the dealer, it sits on the lot for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks. They don't do anything. They tell you they're really busy. And meanwhile, if you're a full-timer like we are, where are you living? In your car? You know, so increasingly these days, taking your RV to the dealer is not an appropriate response because the dealers generally are just not, they're not with it when it comes to repair. They're not in any hurry because they think everybody uses their trailer for camping and you can live without it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And, you know, people like us, we can't. We have 2 ice chests in the trailer that we've been storing drinks and stuff in for the past few days. And then we have these 2 refrigerators out here. This one actually came with the trailer. It was in the compartment over there, along with a stove top and a griddle. And we don't cook outside, so I immediately took the stove top and griddle out. And then we took the fridge out, and we thought, well, you know, let's hang on to this in case we ever need it sometime. Sure came in handy. And then this is another little fridge that we had. This one's a pretty good little fridge. So that's where we've been keeping all our stuff that really needs to be seriously cold over the past few days. While it has been very hot here, it has been 108 yesterday. So it was good to have these 2 little fridges. So anyway, that's my story about our fridge and the challenges we've had with it and how we are learning to live with it. It's kind of like living with an ex-husband or an ex-wife, you know. You've had your challenges. You're going to try to maintain the relationship at whatever level you can and know that you're kind of stuck with them. But anyhow, yeah, that's our story. I wish you best of luck with your refrigerator and your freezer. I hope everything is perfectly cold for you